What's the difference between ordinary leaders and extraordinary leaders? It's the extra. But what is the extra? Can it be defined? Can you attain it? Andrew McCrea helps people and groups find the extra and use it to accomplish the extraordinary.
And leaders have to have a positive attitude. That doesn't mean that they sweep troubles under the rug or they don't acknowledge challenges. Certainly we have to, but they meet challenges head on with a positive energy.
Andrew's keynotes, workshops, and trainings have him crisscrossing the country to visit audiences of 10 to 10,000. His messages have been heard in boardrooms in Tokyo, packed arenas, and rural town gatherings. Andrew owns and operates a 4,000-acre farm and ranch where he begins most mornings on horseback to check cattle. Groups enjoy his real-life stories that help us laugh and think.
My grandfather lived to be 98 years old. For many years, one of his jobs each summer was in this building, the Missouri State Fairgrounds. Now, I might have a few folks from Missouri, a few folks that recognize this building, but this is the Coliseum at the Missouri State Fair. And he was the beef cattle superintendent. And so, of course, he was in charge of all the show animals and all the different things that would be happening in that building. And one day, he had a knock on his door. He said, "Come in." A lady walked in, and she was crying. Well, that doesn't happen every day. You know, you have a lady that walks in and is crying when you're a beef cattle superintendent. And he said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Well, I sure hope you can, because I'm in trouble and I need some help." And my grandfather said, "Well, I'll do what I can." She said, "Well, I've been here at the fair all day, and I went to go home, and I got to my car, and I've locked my keys in my car." And she said, "I don't have anybody to call." And, of course, this is before cell phones, anything like this. And she said, I came back toward the fairgrounds, and yours is the first building I passed, and I saw on the door here it says superintendent, and I know a superintendent's usually in charge, so I'm hoping you can help me." And my grandfather laughed and said, "Well, I'm in charge of beef cattle." He said, "I don't know much about getting keys out of a car, but," he said, "I'll do what I can." He said, "Why don't you come with me?" He said, "The security office just up the street. I bet they can help us." And so that's what they did. Missouri State Fairgrounds, you walk a half block up the street, behind the grandstand, the highway patrol runs the security office. My grandfather walked in, lo and behold, the head of the highway patrol, the superintendent of the highway patrol's in there. He's on duty. My grandfather knows him, and he's explained the problem, and the superintendent said, "Well, I'm your man." He said, let's head out to the car. And so he grabbed his bag of tools, and now all three of them go out to the parking lot, and they work and work and work, and the highway patrolman can't get the keys out of the car. He pulls my grandfather aside and said, "Morris," he said, "I don't know what it is, the make, the model of this car." He said, "My next step's to break out her window." And he said, "I don't want to do that. There's one other guy working today," he said, "that I think might be able to get these keys out. Let me see if I can run and get him real quick and bring him back if you'll keep her, here and kind of keep her calm and visit with her." My grandfather said, "Yep, that's no problem." He said, "I'll do that." He explained what was going on. The patrolman jogged left. About 5 minutes later, comes back with a guy that, if he's on duty, he's plain clothes because he's not wearing a patrol uniform. Walks over, takes the exact same tools, not in 30 minutes, but in about 30 seconds. Pops open the door, reaches in, grabs the keys, hands them to the lady. Of course, she's happy. And then he turns and he begins to walk back from where he had come. Well, she was really appreciative, of course, and she said, "Well, hold on, sir." She said, "I want to pay you." And he just kind of waved his hand. He kept on walking. Meanwhile, the patrolman, he kind of laughed a little bit, and she turned to him and said, "Well, sir, let me pay you or buy you lunch if you can accept it as a patrolman." She said, "I'd really like to do that." And he kind of shook his head, and he just laughed a little bit harder. She turned to my grandfather and said, "Well, let me do something for you guys." And my grandfather said no, but the patrolman just continued to laugh, which seemed a little bit odd to this lady. And so finally, the curiosity got the better of her. And she turned to him and said, "Well, sir, I really appreciate your help, but why are you laughing at me?" And he finally stopped and said, "Well, ma'am, you really can't pay him. It's true he's here working for me, but he's here cleaning the grounds. He's in the state pen for grand theft auto."
For the past 20 years, Andrew's been sharing the story of the extraordinary, not only through his keynotes and workshops, but through his syndicated radio and TV broadcast, The American Countryside. So what is the extra that helps us become extraordinary? Andrew's travels show the signs are all around us.
So as I said, I travel on the road a decent amount for the radio and TV work that I do. We end up in a lot of different places, and so I like to take a lot of pictures and share those with people. So this morning we'll be sharing pictures and stories from stories we've done in Denmark and Moscow, China, even some work we've recently done in Baghdad and even in Iran, some places some folks don't get very often. Some research we've done at places that you've heard of, probably like Harvard and Yale. But I find that people enjoy seeing the pictures because the pictures help tell the story. Pictures of places like Denmark, Wisconsin, Moscow, Idaho, China, Indiana, some of the work we've been doing in Baghdad, Florida, and even in Iran, Texas. Some of the research at places like Harvard, Nebraska, even Yale, Oklahoma. At this point, of course, what you had in your mind a few seconds ago is probably something different. You may think I'm trying to be a little bit clever, maybe even a little bit slick. Really, I don't think this is a novelty at all. I really don't think it's all that peculiar. It's not bragging for me, I don't feel, to tell you this morning that I know the road to success. I've been there, and I can help you get around your competition as well. But here's the thing. You can put two people in the exact same location. They could be your customers, they could be employees, whatever it is. One person will find their own slice of heaven or paradise. The other person will find their own slice of hell. Although I do have to give the folks in Hell, Michigan credit. I interviewed the mayor of Hell, Michigan. At least the folks in Hell do have a good attitude about where they live, so that's a good thing. But here's the thing. Whether you look at life as something that you have a lot of ability to control, that you can influence people, or whether you look at it as you don't have very much control at all, things are done to us without the ability to change very much. Either way you look at it, you will be correct. And so, what is the answer then?
Andrew's keynotes, workshops, and trainings captivate and motivate audiences from coast to coast, earning rave reviews. Audiences enjoy his humor, inspiring stories, and proven leadership techniques he brings from his extensive broadcasting travels. He's been on location in all 50 states and done interviews on 6 of the world's 7 continents. Today, the radio version of the show has aired over 5,000 broadcasts on stations coast to coast and daily on satellite radio. The winner of numerous awards in broadcasting, his TV features are seen nationally on weekends in over 150 local markets and on cable networks. Andrew's message shows the steps leaders, businesses, and communities use to turn the ordinary to extraordinary. The extra makes all the difference in the world.
And so today in this arena, I ask you, what's your dream? What journey begins today? What small step will we take? What little thing begins today that 5, 6, 7 years into the future might result in something more than we ever imagined and touch lives that we could have never thought of?
Whether it's on radio, television, or in person at one of his keynotes, join Andrew on a trip to becoming extraordinary today.